Welcome back to the Comparesoft Facilities Management Podcast. Today we're looking at how facility managers can get the very best performance from their contractors. I'm joined by Lewis O'Brien, Facilities Manager for the UK at Korn Ferry, running the London, Manchester and Dublin offices. In this episode, Lewis goes into detail about his methods for contractor management, particularly when it comes to selecting, tracking and communicating with contractors and suppliers. We take a look at his spreadsheet-heavy setup at Korn Ferry, how he uses it to track building assets and contractor details alongside an automated ticketing system, and we explore how Lewis can improve his contractor management workflow by implementing a CAFM system. Hi Lewis, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes, glad to have you on, Lewis. I'm very excited for this. How's your week been looking? You're very busy, I assume?
Yeah, so it's been a quite busy week. We've had a few changes within the team, a few dramas. We've also got our CEO over at the moment, which is obviously creates a lot of noise around the office, a lot of buzz, a lot of extra colleagues coming in from different areas of the business, which is always nice to see some old faces, some new faces. And so it's been a very sort of busy preparation week for that.
All on your best behaviour, I hope.
Yes, exactly. Making sure that the team are all there, making sure that they're present in the reception, smiling and welcoming and all those aspects.
Awesome. Well, Lewis, you're at Korn Ferry. You've been there since March 2020, which is quite a unique time to start, as particularly in a facilities environment during the COVID era. So you started there as an operations assistant, but before moving into that UK facilities manager role. How would you describe your responsibilities as an FM? You know, what are you tracking and managing on a weekly basis?
So a lot of it comes down to the building itself, making sure that we have regular contact with the building management team. The suppliers are coming in, the contractors that they have are coming in and doing what they need to do, making sure that the office runs, essentially. I know it sounds like it's quite a simple thing, but a lot of the behind the scenes magic, as it were, that we need to keep on top of. I've got a fantastic team around me that help supply their support from different aspects, so from the stationery to the printer management, making sure that people have what they need to do. Plus, we have quite a busy client floor here as well, so we have roughly 500 meetings a month,
Wow.
ranging from large sort of 50 people events to one-on-one client candidate meetings, which are obviously highly confidential, and so it's a real juggle between those aspects as well.
Yeah, and is that 500 meetings a month? Is that in one location? I know you've got London, Manchester, Dublin offices. Is that across all three?
Yeah, so that is mainly our London office. That is our highest footfall. So we have roughly about 1,000 colleagues pointed into London. We then have roughly 200 to Manchester and then 50 into Dublin. So there's quite a range of office sizes and how much needs to be done in each office as well. It's an interesting thing. Even though the office locations are smaller, it doesn't mean that the job's any smaller. It's just a larger scale in London compared to Dublin. So.
Yeah, and so 500 meetings a month roughly. How many tickets are you getting sorted on a weekly basis?
So in terms of tickets, where we manage our sort of facilities procedures, facilities pieces, we have about what is it? I'd say in the region of like 20 to 30 a week.
Okay.
That includes my team putting their own tickets in just to keep track of things, because then it helps us understand if there's reoccurring issues, if there's anything that needs more focus on, if we're having a lot more people ask for access cards or a lot more people ask for printer assistance and those sort of things, so we can really hone in on where we need to focus our attention when we've got more people in the office.
Yeah, and obviously on top of those tickets, you're managing your contractors and suppliers as well. And I'm really curious how you stay on top of that sort of management across three sites. You know, what does your sort of tech stack look like?
So in terms of that, we are quite, I guess, old school in terms of tech. We don't necessarily have a specific system, but
Hmm.
what we've tried to do is use similar contractors or the same contractor across locations where we can. So
Yep.
Manchester and London have a relatively similar contractor list, apart from one or two differences. And then Dublin, we've tried to again subcontract out if we can through our existing suppliers. So then,
Okay.
therefore, we're dealing with one person or one contractor for say the maintenance rather than three separate ones in three different locations,
Mm.
just to try and make it as easy as possible from that aspect.
And all that information, that contractor information, that's kept on a spreadsheet, is it?
Yeah, so we use obviously Teams quite a lot. So we've got our Teams site where we house a lot of our information. But yes, we manage that through our costing spreadsheets, through a number of different maintenance schedule spreadsheets, and then we
Yeah.
have an over sort of arcing operations plan where we have our key sort of testings coming up. So our PAT testing, our electrical testing, those sort of things, our health and safety audits. So it's all sort of scheduled, and we know within that okay, this month we've got our health and safety audit coming.
Mm.
Next month we've got ISO audits, and the month after. So we can, yeah, again, hone in to those sort of pieces and really sort of drill down to when we need to focus on those areas.
And that's sort of like a manual check, I guess, every week to see what's coming up, every month
Yeah,
see
so
what's coming up,
yeah,
or have
we
you got
have a
like a
weekly sort of
notification system?
yeah, so we have a weekly meeting where we
Yeah.
review those pieces, and we go through each of the spreadsheets and just make sure that everything's up to date, and just have a check in just to make sure that we've got the right tool or right person in place to achieve what we need to achieve that week.
Yeah, awesome. And what sort of like types of contractors are you working with daily? Is it more like on the cleaning security side, or are you looking at more maintenance?
So we've got a number of obviously different contractors. We've got a print service, maintenance, cafe, so coffee machines,
Mm.
with taps, security as well. So we manage our own security alarm systems. In a couple of, so in Manchester we have a dedicated alarm, whereas in London the building is 24/7 security. So those sort of little differences that we have as well from location to
Yeah.
location. Um, so we try to work as closely as we can with each location just to make sure that they're covered from those parts.
Yeah. I guess making sure that coffee machine, that's the most important part of the building, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Making sure that every floor has a coffee machine, and making sure that the vending machine's stacked up with everyone's favourite
Yeah.
snacks and those sort of things are the big wins.
Would you say the percentage of your, your FM tasks, are they more outsourced and handled in-house?
The majority, yeah, is outsourced. It's an interesting sort of split. I think people don't realise how much we rely on contractors within
Hmm.
facilities managers, and how much it becomes an extension of your team. So it
Yeah.
is that thing of, even though they are a contractor, I've had contractors that I've worked with for 15 years, and we have regular people that we've become quite friendly with, that they always come in, we offer them a cup of tea, this, that and the other, just to sort of help build that relationship, but also just means that they like coming in honesty, and they
Yeah.
know that we're quite flexible in the time that they come. We try to balance things out. So obviously for us, Mondays and Fridays are quieter. So it makes sense to have contractors come in on Mondays and Fridays, rather than pushing it into one of the busy days, and
Yeah.
making sure that those the schedules all align, and means that we're reducing any sort of disruption to our colleagues, and reducing any sort of disruption to the service itself as well.
Yeah. And possibly putting contractors as sort of like, seeing them as an extension of your existing team. Do you think that's how, you build that good relationship in practice, that it all comes
Yeah,
down to that?
absolutely. I think having a friendly sort of relationship with your contractor,
Mm.
and being able to build that relationship is difficult to start off with anyway. It's kind of, you're in this position where someone's coming in, you've got to trust that they're going to do the work,
Yeah.
which is obviously a big part of it. So being able to build that rapport quite quickly. Seeing them as that extension really helps from a culture perspective as well, because a lot of our senior leaders, I'll say an example where we were doing an office move quite a few years back now, and the team hadn't been instructed yet. So they had gone into our kitchen and were sat down and all having a bit of a drink before we started, because we were just having a catch up elsewhere. And then I was going down to instruct the team. As I've gone down, one of the senior partners has pulled me aside into a meeting room and said, just to let you know, all of the contractors have taken over the kitchen and it's a bit daunting walking in there and that sort of thing. So it really got me thinking that it's not just the visibility of me and my team, it's the visibility of what the contractor is doing that is obviously looked into by everyone that's in the business. So therefore, really getting to know and trust your contractor and allowing them to understand the important things within your business. So knowing that the type of language that should be used in a professional setting, how much noise they should be making. Obviously, it's an office move. There's a lot of hustle and bustle going on and around, but making sure that it's contained to the specific work area and we're not going across all the other floors or in the lifts and sort of those communal spaces. It's also making sure and thinking that we're in a position that we're obviously there is the exchange of money and whatnot, and we are paying for the service, but delivering that service is key, and making sure that they're on top of what they need to be on top of, having those sort of conversations with sort of leadership and being able to sort of say, oh no, I appreciate where you're coming from. They are in the kitchen, they're doing a lot. But I'm going to talk to them now after I'd had that conversation with him, going through, and it was all resolved because they moved on, got on with work and bits and pieces like that. But
I was going to say, how do you go about addressing a situation like that without it, without too much pushback?
Yeah, so with that, it's just a case of speaking to the contractor as a person, having a bit of a human conversation and just saying, I appreciate you're all here. I appreciate you're all working, but please bear in mind that my senior leadership sits around the corner to where you're working. We are a professional setting. We are a professional environment. So just, can you mind your language? Can you make sure you're behaving as you should appropriately within that setting as well? Most people, if you're calm, have a general sort of conversation and keep it professional in that conversation, you don't need to go down and demand. You don't need to scream and shout. You don't need to say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. A lot of the time people don't react well to that. They sort of then get on the defensive and go, well, I wasn't doing anything wrong, in my opinion. I wasn't doing this. Whereas if you're able to keep it calm and just have a normal conversation and just say, oh, guys, that my senior leaders over there, I'd really appreciate if you could sort of tone things down a little bit. 95% of the time, they'll go, oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, we'll make sure that we're quiet. We'll make sure we'll make sure that we're behaving as we should.
I suppose that's how fragile that trust in a relationship is, because if you have that sort of pushback and you get into a bit of back and forth, you start questioning, are these guys actually, hear what they're to do,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it can be a very easy thing to break that trust. And it can be very hard to then repair, especially when you have a senior manager or someone senior within your leadership that has had a negative experience with that contractor. Because as I said, it feels like they are an extension of you. So then it feels like you become the point of contact within the company that is sort of their, not sorry, but like the responsibility lies within you to ensure that they are behaving. So you'll generally be the person that is called to say, oh, sorry, guys, can you do this, do that?
Yeah. And is it a similar situation when, say, the work that's been completed is possibly substandard, it's not what you're used to? How do you approach a situation there?
There's a number of ways and a number of things that you can have the conversation. I think it's what we always like to do if there's any building work or if there's any sort of issues to raise is we'll get the contractor in, we'll walk around and discuss if there's something physical that's wrong, if it's the plasterer hasn't actually skimmed correctly and it's all now peeling off and those sort of things, or the painter's used the wrong paint. It's quite easy to then walk around and say, look, can we address this? This needs addressing. This obviously isn't up to the standard we would expect. Behavioural is a bit difficult, obviously. It's a bit of a different bag. It comes with challenges in itself. Generally, we would still invite the contractor in to have a face-to-face meeting. We would try to have a constructive conversation. It not necessarily pointing fingers or blame culture or anything like that. It would be, here are the facts. This is the situation that occurred. This is how it's impacted your company's reputation in our senior leadership's opinion. I'm flagging this to you because we want to continue working with you, but I think we need to address these issues ahead of the next project, ahead of the next scheduled maintenance or whatever it may be.
Yeah. If we go back to your setup there, Lewis, so you said it's mainly using spreadsheets at the minute. We look at your ticketing process. So how does the process look like from, say, a ticket being raised, being looked at, being completed? What does that entire process look like?
Yeah, so essentially we piggybacked off our IT ticketing system. So IT have had a ticketing system for quite some time, and we were noticing we were getting more and more requests in inboxes and more requests that, due to the changing nature of my role, that I was taking a bit longer to respond to than I would like. So we spoke to our IT team and said, is there any way that we can sort of extend what you're doing to then allow for facilities issues? So audio-visual, printer, access control, desk setup, those sort of things, to give us a wide variety of then issues that can be reported. We were then able to use the existing system, so people can just scan a QR code around our office, or it's also embedded within our desk booking system. So they can go to our desk booking, click on raise a ticket. That then takes them through to the portal. They fill out a few small details, so name, floor, what the actual issue is, and a brief description. That would then send an email to myself and my colleagues. So we'd all get that at the same time. We then would log in, assign the ticket to whoever's taking it on, and then go through the process of actioning or assigning the work to the correct sort of contractor after that, and then follow that process through, let the individual know what the plan is. If it's a quick sort of setup of a new pass or a issue, a lot of those can be resolved by the team in-house. It's generally, if it's something a bit more complex, that then would require an external contractor to then come in. But once that's all then been resolved, we close the ticket via a resolved notification, and then that would go to the individual as well. And then we do a weekly roundup of the facilities tickets, just to go through what's happened, where we are, if there's anything that is outstanding and needs any further sort of follow-up, essentially.
Okay, that's really interesting. So it's still a very automated process, and you said there you're piggybacking off the IT system. Do you see it as like a separate ticketing system for facilities still, or is it very interlinked with IT?
It's quite interlinked, because it allows the IT team as well to reassign any tickets or anything like that. Thing is, because people were already used to using the IT system, it wasn't having to then introduce yet another new system that they've got to then learn, that they then got to understand how to find it. They've got to then find the correct code for what job they want to do. And then they're familiar with the wording that's used within the system as well.
Yeah.
So they know what a resolved ticket means. They know what an open ticket, a signed ticket, those sort of things. Because then it's all language that they're already familiar with. So then hopefully it encourages more use of the system
Yeah.
and means that they get a quicker response as well.
So there was no pushback really on adoption of using the system because, they're already
No,
using it.
yeah, exactly. No, there wasn't any pushback from leadership or anything like that from going out to release it. What we were very keen on was making sure that people understood that it was an additional way to contact us. It wasn't replacing the facilities team. It
Yeah.
wasn't replacing us physically being around. It wasn't replacing us. If there's an urgent thing and you need to phone us or contact us, it's more of an additional communication channel to then hopefully speed up some response on some everyday issues rather than completely replacing the team and it being all automated.
Yeah. And so just to get this right, this system is purely just ticket based. So when it comes to managing, your building assets, contractors, suppliers, everything, that's still on the spreadsheets.
Yes, yeah. That's all still a separate system that's managed via the spreadsheets. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel there's a case you can put forward that this automated ticketing system is working brilliantly? Can we get some sort of CAFM tool in here to manage our assets, manage our contractors across those 3 sites? Do you feel there's a case for that?
I think so. I think there's always a case for most improvements, isn't there? And I think it is just a case of getting a better understanding of what a CAFM system would actually do, how it would fully function within the 3 sites that we have.
Yeah.
Obviously, we are evolving as a company all the time. We change things around. We sort of develop new, improved procedures, policies, those sort of things. So there's always the view. There's always something that could improve that. So yeah.
Yeah. And for you personally, is there a sort of feature or capability that you think, oh, I really could do with this on a weekly basis? This can make my job a little easier every week.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things in terms of, obviously we use a calendar to track contractors, and we obviously have a kind of a schedule when things are, but it's when we have the PPMs, knowing that this has come in, ticked off and done, going through all those sort of aspects. If there was a system where we could just go, yep, that's one's been done, that one's been done, rather than having to go into the spreadsheet, going through, right, we raised this job, this job, this job, that was then connected to that visit. We then raised this job, this job, this job, that was then connected over to that one. Whereas having an automated system that basically someone could go, all right, I've attended today, I've done this and this and this, and then it's all just in one place, sort of thing.
Yeah, having that smooth automation throughout.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very good. So you've just completed an office relocation in Dublin, is that right? Take us through that. How do you go about finding and onboarding contractors? You said you were trying to use contractors you used before.
Yeah, so we have tried to use a subcontractor of our London-based contractors that we use, which is obviously an interesting thing when you're going to a different country. In terms of making sure that the service is similar, making sure that the response times are similar, all those sort of things line up. But generally, the contractors that we have here are very good and have good contacts already over in Ireland. So we were quite fortunate from that. We then went out to the new building manager that was in place as well for our cleaning contractor, just to see who they were using, if there was any benefits to using that as a solution. So we moved away from our previous cleaning contractor to a new one because they were already doing the rest of the building. So then it made sense to align with what they were doing. So then they've got the entire building under one contractor. They've already got supplies on site. They're already site familiar. They already know the health and safety aspects and the expectations from that. So already having an existing knowledge is really helpful from there as well. Because then there's little onboarding as you like, apart from our own internal sort of systems. They're already familiar with what the expectations are. They're already familiar with the space and those sort of things.
I suppose that familiarity helps, when you're trying to coordinate certain contractors say if you can't necessarily just go and walk the floor and check on things every day when it's in a
Yeah,
different country.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Having someone who's already site familiar, is a great sort of advantage within those sort of spaces.
Yeah. But when you're trying to measure the performance of your contractors and what are you sort of looking for in terms of metrics? Are you looking at, how quickly they can get a job done, how many jobs they're shutting every week or month?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things that we generally look at. So response time is quite a key one for maintenance and coffee machines and those sort of things. If we're having to wait 5 days for a contractor to show up to fix the coffee machine, it's not really at the level that we would expect. And thankfully we don't. And
You'll have a
I
riot
think,
on your hands in the building, I
yeah,
think.
exactly. A lot of our colleagues wouldn't necessarily be quiet if it was taking that long. Let's just say that. Response time is quite a key indication. The other thing is we had quite a good review recently with our coffee contractor where they provided all of the data of call-outs of the past 6 months. Having a review of those, is any recurring issues? What are those? So we can dive down a little deeper. If there is a reoccurring thing, what can be done about it? How, like you said, how many jobs have been closed? So I think it was 18 over the period. 4 or 5 of them were office moves and moving around the floor, which finds that reduces that number down. And a couple of the others were related to milk fridges, which yet again just allows us to really dive down into those little details of, okay, does that part of the machine need to be replaced rather than the whole thing? And just sort of, if it's reoccurring, it just means that we've got something to look at, and having that data really does help to go into that.
Does the contractor bring that data to you, or do you have that data?
No, the contractor brought it, so they're quite good in that. So we obviously had that conversation ahead of time and said, for our next quarterly catch up, this is what we'd like to review, and then they provide that data on hand. And a lot of our contractors that we work with do that as well. We have quite regular sort of quarterly catch ups, and we'll review any those sort of data points that we have that we're then able to really focus on. Okay, why is that happening the way that's happening? Is there a larger issue that we need to address? But yeah, it just gives us that extra sort of pieces of information that really do help focus what we're looking at, and sort of how it affects the service essentially.
And I suppose that goes a long way to building out, PPM schedules and seeing, if there's anything that actually needs repairing or replacing, if there's too many, reoccurring incidents.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's kind of how we started the PPM schedule with our maintenance contractor, was going through the past sort of 6 months of this is quite a regular call out. So let's include that. How are we for lighting? How are we for sort of electrical repairs, those sort of things? And then just making a sensible structure and schedule for when those things get done.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Lewis, I'd like to save the last question here just for giving a bit of insight and advice. You can give any FMs listening out there. If you had to give a new FM 3 things to get right about contractor management, what would they be?
So I think the first thing for me is to look like I've said myself, the way I manage it is looking at them as that extension to your team, because it really helps build a partnership. It really helps build that favorable relationship where if you've got a little job that you didn't raise before they were there, oh, sorry, because you're here, do you mind just looking at that? Do you mind just having a quick look? I know you've probably got somewhere else to be, but can you just have a quick look? Or when you're next here, can you add this to your job list or this? It just really helps sort of build those relationships quite quickly. And then it also puts you in a good stead with leadership, because you're then able to provide clear sort of feedback of what's been going on as well. And you're really sort of, it shows that you're on top of what's what contractors coming in when, and those sort of things. I think the other thing is to set out the sort of expectations of the service at the offset.
Yeah.
It's hard to sort of 6 months down the line say, well, this isn't up to scratch when you haven't set your expectations. It it gives you a lot better standing if you're having those conversations at the start of your relationship rather than sort of midway through the year, because you can then have that conversation 3 months down the line and say, well, we did discuss this is what the expectations were. You're not meeting those, or you are meeting those, and great job. Essentially, it works both ways as well. So I think having those conversations as early on as possible are key to good sort of contract management.
Yeah.
And kind of then tied into that is being able to say to the contractors that it was a good job, like, and being able to have that conversation. Yes, you are paying them to do a job. I get that. I understand that there is a expectation of a level of service, but it really does create a good relationship when you let the management team of their company know that they've actually done a really good job. I've had lots of positive interactions with contractors and their sort of our key account holders when our cleaning company, for example, we have a fantastic cleaner who is day in, day out here every day, comes in on weekends to do extra bits. So looking after our plants and maintenance and that sort of thing. And we are very, very obviously fond of her and what she does. And being able to tell the company that she's fantastic, and they've given her a couple of vouchers and sort of well dones and certificates and this sort of thing. So it just really does then all round just improve sort of the service, improve sort of the environment and sort of the culture that you have within the team.
That's a really, really valuable point actually there, Lewis, because we're always quick to judge if something goes wrong. You know, we spoke about what if the work is subpar, you know, what do you do? But we never say congratulations, you know, or really good job, well done, you know, because it's sort of that expectation that, well, this is your pay to do your job, but that goes a long way.
Yeah, and I think that's what I found a lot of the time as well. And even within the building management team, so we've got a really great relationship with them, and having that conversation and just saying, oh no, I'm really appreciative of what you've done and all the work that's in. And yes, it is the expectation that it's your job, but it's like anyone, everyone likes to be told a job well done. Everyone sort of has that sort of, it creates a good feeling when people are appreciated. And so I think try not to forget that, and try not to forget that those people might not always feel appreciated within that sort of role that they do.
Well, Lewis, you've been a great guest. Thank you so much. You know, you've given such an honest look at what contractor manager involves at Korn Ferry and how you build trust, hold suppliers to their SLAs and run most of it on spreadsheets, which is quite amazing. You know, anyone managing contractors in a corporate or multi-site setting, you know, they're going to get a lot from this. So thank you so much again, Lewis.
That's right. No worries. Thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. And thank you all for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.